Tata has been knocking on the big manufacturers' doors for quite some time now, be it with Tata Altroz, the Harrier, or the Safari. But with this product, they're looking to give them a knockout blow. This is the Tata Punch. The front is unmistakably Tata, with the grille that is reminiscent of the Harrier. This is the humanity line that flows all across the front fascia. Over here you can see the dual tone treatment of the LED DRLs and projector headlamps, just like the Harrier continues, and it is surely riding that wave. The grille is completely covered with black plastic. There are triangular inserts for the horn. This can be converted into an EV. The lower half of the bumper is completely covered in black plastic. If it's an SUV these days, it has to have black cladding to protect itself from the rocks and everything that is thrown typically on an SUV. The attention to detail is really nice. It's very impressive. You can see that the lower part of the grille has this triangular pattern, and you can follow this theme all across the car, which is a very neat touch. Now let's slide to the side. On the sides, you can clearly see shorter overhangs. These help in the approach and departure angle of the car, be it at the front or at the rear. And there is generous amount of black cladding over here. See how high it rises. This is good for those occasional SUV off-road wounds and the Indian traffic, which is not so kind to us. And you can see that Tata has given it a dual tone effect, and they've really masked the height of this car. It is actually taller than the Nexon, believe it or not. But overall, just to fit it in the tax bracket, the car is not so long. It is not so big that you would call it an SUV. That's why they're coining it as a micro SUV. And over here you can see that the tires are 195 R16 tires. These are diamond cut dual tone finished, and they look really snazzy. But on the lower trims you get 15 inches, which is a bit of a bummer. And if you follow me, you can see that Tata has given it an integrated handle next to the window. What it does, it gives it a two-door look. I don't know why you would aspire an SUV to have two doors. Nevertheless, it has it. And on the top you can see that there are roof fills which are not functional. It's an SUV exaggeration that is common with every manufacturer. At the rear, the triangular theme continues. You can see the inlays over here in the rear tail lights. And coming to the side, you can also see that the Tata inlays is a very neat touch. It's like Mercedes-Benz and Audis. They give these nomenclatures in the tail lights as well. And the overall stance is really nice. The lower half is completely covered with plastic. There are some aerodynamic bits over here, and overall the car has a really squat look. It really has a stance of a boxer. It is also vocal for local, and the attention to detail continues with a small rhinoceros on the rear windscreen. This boxer does have the muscle, but does it have the core strength needed to compete with the best in the segment? Well, the Alpha architecture has proved itself in the Altroz, and that's what it gives the 90-degree opening doors. And it has given this car 5-star rating in the global NCAP, and it was supposed to be. The ABS and the airbags and EBD are standard, and the chassis is really strong. It is really firm, and it really goes over the potholes and the bumps really well. It's safe to say that the design language of Tata Punch, well, it does pack a punch. With the onlooker's view taken, let's step inside and let's see how's it on the inside. Step inside and you'll like what you see. The dash is very upright and the overall perceived quality is actually decent. You can see that the AC inlays are colored in the color of the car from the outside, and there is a triangular pattern on this plastic grain over here. Tata has really come leaps and bounds from the previous generations. But however, the quality is not perfect. This button over here is super flimsy, and some plastic bits here and there really look cheap. In this segment, convenience matters, and the Punch has over 25 different storage spaces in the cabin, with a dedicated umbrella holder, minus the umbrella of course. Get a Rolls if you want one. Okay, maybe a Skoda. The car might not be as big as you like, but the feature list certainly is. Talking about inconveniences, you will realize that there is no dedicated screen for the AC controls over here. So when you go to change the settings of your climate control, you realize that you won't suddenly know what temperature or what fan speed you've set. Then you'll have to glance over here in the screen to know that the temperature or the fan speed is, for example, here 2. Talking about the infotainment itself, it's not the best of the units out there. It is difficult to use. The graphics are really small. You have to take your eyes off the road to operate it. And I've accidentally pressed a button or two which has taken me to a function I don't know. You have to swipe to access different types of menus. There is a doodle mode which you can configure if you have the Connect app. It does have IRA features which are the remote controls that you can operate through your phone. And you will also have some modes. For example, there's park assist and there are themes, whereas you can set a theme for the car. It does change the lighting and everything, nothing really spectacular, but overall the resolution isn't that great and the Tata's operating system isn't really that great. The good point is that it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you're far better than using those two operating systems than their own operating system. The display might not be the best, but the resolution of the reverse parking camera is really decent. You also get guidelines, which is a really good feature to help you park this car. Tata calls the steering wheel D-shaped. Well, all the puns aside, it does feel good to the touch. The leather is really nice and supple. The steering mounted controls are tactile and they really operate smoothly. And you would see that the horn is not operated by this. It's operated by pressing this. There you can see that there's multi-information display with part analog and part digital system. It is a really good blend of the conventional and the modern age. Over here you can see that there is trip computer settings, there is the power and torque figures as well as distance to empty. Tata is hitting all the right angles with this car, pun intended. Now the ingress is pretty easy. This will be appreciated by the elderly. The knee room isn't that great and the under thigh support is decent. The headroom is really good. However, I do feel that there could be more space because the front seats are in my driving position and I'm just about comfortable over here. But by no means am I an average Indian. Now, there is a rear armrest and that's about the only creature comfort because there are no dedicated power sockets or a rear AC vent, which is a bit of a bummer in the 21st century. Now let's check out the boot space. The boot has a capacity of 366 litres, which is according to class standards. Tata does provide you with a tire mobility kit as well as a spare tire. That's pretty generous of them. Enough of chit chat about the features and the interiors and blah blah blah. Let's get down to the business. Let's see how it drives. This car has been powered by a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder Revertron engine. Well, it is called Revertron, but it doesn't like to rev a lot because it has 86 horsepower and 113 Newton meter of torque, which is really not great, but not very bad either. It's good for the city runabouts, and apart from the occasional thump from the 3-cylinder, which is a characteristic of a 3-cylinder engine, you really don't hear a lot from it. It's really when you want to give it the beans, it really lacks. There's no oomph, there's no punch in the top range. The middle range is also very flat. It is a good city runabout. I think it is more suited for the urban jungle and not for the open highways. You can really tell that by the statistics. The total like 16 seconds that it takes from 0 to 100 is nothing to boast about. But to be very honest, 0 to 100s are not really what you will actually care about, because in India you really don't get to the 100 mark very easily. What you will definitely care about is the way it drives, and boy oh boy, does the Alpha architecture really drive solidly. I'm a big fan of this architecture, and Tata always nails the ride and handling package of its cars. Talking about the suspension, it has load independent wishbone at the front with McPherson struts and coil springs, and a semi-independent setup at the rear. It also has a very clever feature called brake sway control, wherein if you jab the brake pedal a little bit, it will not be leery like Kimi Raikkonen after a few drinks. It will remain planted and it will take you to a stop safely. Another benefit of the Alpha architecture is in the cornering department. This D-shaped steering wheel is just not good to the touch, it is good to operate as well. When you're trying to corner it hard, it does go in the direction you point it to. But if you're taking it too hard, the tires really protest and squeal. As long as you're taking it at a sedate pace and at the city runabout pace, it is very good. It points you in the traffic gaps very easily and it's a joy to operate. For the conclusion, Tata are slowly becoming the masters of Indian road conditions and they set up their cars almost to the perfection. This car has the right amount of firmness, the right amount of softness, and I'm really impressed by the overall ride and handling package this has to offer. Tata might have mastered the art of making good suspension, but AMD as a technology is something not all manufacturers can master. I think it's not down to the manufacturers, the technology itself is age old and you still get that head nod every now and then when you change the gears. However, I do feel as far as the AMTs go, this is one of the smoothest and it is definitely better than the Marutis where you constantly have this head nod, not in the good sense. The right head nod is when you push back to the seat with the acceleration. And as far as the manual car goes, we haven't tested that yet, but what we've heard from the people around is that it is a good unit to use. It's not the best, the sleekest like the Japanese, but it still is much better than the older Tatas. If you glance to the right side of the steering wheel, there's a button with some leaves on it. What it does is it changes the driving modes. Now, as we know that it has turtle pace, it doesn't have a sports mode. The two modes that it has are unmistakable and you cannot confuse them with the other because the infotainment system tells you.
City drive mode activated.
Very loudly.
Economy drive mode activated.
Didn't need that. But this Boxer has kept its last move reserved. The last thing is the jab at the pricing. This car starts at 5.49 lakhs and goes up till 8.49 lakhs. There are 4 variants on offer. This is the right time to pause your video and check these out. Now that you've got all the information you need, on which side of the boxing ring are you? As far as I'm concerned, this car does have a personality. The Tata's attention to detail is really nice. All I can say is, let's get ready to rumble. We've borrowed this Tata Punch from Tata Motors, a leading dealership of Mahindra, Tata and Kia in the North region.